right, welcome back. We're continuing our series with Etel like kettle, and we're continuing to discuss how our mental and physical well-being are interconnected and what things can help with that, sharing our stories and journeys along the way. So, Edel, would you share your experience? Today, we're kind of focusing on anxiety and what that looks like. I know everyone's a little bit different, but would you share what your experience has been?
Yes, I would be more than happy to. And I learned that instead of saying anxiety, I guess video purposes and whatnot, we should say, or I should say, overstimulated, or what's the other word? I
Overwhelmed?
can't. Overwhelmed. Yes. So just to be proper, I have to say that. But yes, anxiety. And anyway, well, I have been dealing with anxiety since my teen years, but I didn't know that it was anxiety. Just because for me, I'm 44. Back in the day, we weren't like distinguishing. Like our parents weren't like, "How are you feeling today? What are your feelings? Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you depressed?" So,
Yeah.
anyways, it took me a really long time to figure out that something was off. Um, and I really didn't realize that it was anxiety until my later years. Like, I think I was in my 30s when I realized it was anxiety. And when I would wake up in the middle of the night, palm sweaty, heart racing. I mean, I was so anxious. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think. It was a cross between anxiety and a panic attack, and super overwhelming. But that started in my teen years and moving to my 40s, which I'm in my 40s right now. And so I just got done telling you I had a really bad episode last week. And it's tough because this journey has taught me to really rely on faith and to just continue to implement certain things. And um I have and I've what I've been using, the sync, which is the the one that helps you sleep and helps to kind of chill you out. I love that stuff because it has definitely helped me to mellow out and to just kind of, it helps me because eventually after I take it, I have some time to process what's happening. And then I'm like, okay, am I okay? Yes, I'm okay. Am I breathing? Yes, I'm breathing. And so it's just a different feeling when I do use that stuff. But my journey has been very long, to say the least. And I feel like I'm still learning, still learning how to cope and how to just completely let go of the anxiety. So, very long-winded explanation.
No, I think that's good because, as we're talking with with whoever's listening, we all have different experiences that along those lines. And I think my anxiety started when I was a kid too. But again, like it didn't look typical and, it's hard to identify in kids, honestly. Um, and so, I would get overwhelmed by whatever situations or, social things or whatever, and I would just kind of keep to myself or and it would kind of look like either not talking at all or like over talk, like hyper verbal over talking because of the anxiety of like I don't know what the person's going to say, so I'm just going to keep talking because I don't know what the unknown there. And then there's a combination of things as we get older. Life changes, we change, circumstances, experiences, and I think, other things that play into it, like you mentioned sleep, sleep definitely plays into that because, what's happening with the nervous system, what state is our nervous system in? Are we in like a hyper vigilant, more of a fight or flight state, if we're in that stress state because of lack of sleep or not good quality sleep? or just stress or trauma, right? So the state of the nervous system is for sure a factor. The nervous system is the brain too. So what's happening with the neurochemicals in the brain? I think we see a lot of people that have some sort of imbalance in like serotonin or any of those neurotransmitters. We often see also some form of anxiety. And I know that's been true for me as someone with ADD. I've seen that to be a big factor. And then, of course, hormones are always a thing as we have puberty happening and, having babies as we get older, all of those different things for sure, that plays a factor. I even had a client of mine who is saying she found out that because of the hormone issues going on with the thyroid, that was actually a big factor in why she was dealing with anxiety. I thought, well, that's very interesting. And if you look into it, it does make a lot of sense. Depending on what your hormones look like, that could be a thing. So yeah, for me, I didn't know I had anxiety. I didn't know what, what was happening for such a long time. And, I think as I got older, it even turned into looking like anger sometimes because I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of, if I would make a mistake or whatever, and it would turn into just being really upset and angry. And I had no idea that that was actually anxiety. So one of the things that helped me a lot was learning to kind of identify when it starts happening, when that domino of overwhelmed or whatever you want to call it starts happening, and try to pinpoint, okay, what feeling or what thought started this? Like where in it takes a practice to get into that habit of first of all identifying because sometimes I would be like halfway down a spiral of emotional mess before I would be able to be like, oh, this is happening. I need to just hang on, pause real quick. But eventually I was able to start realizing, okay, this is coming from these certain thought patterns, these certain emotional patterns that I have when someone says XYZ or when this and that happen, when certain things happen. And eventually I was able to kind of see the patterns and realize, okay, I need to pinpoint those thoughts and those emotions and work on flipping those and switching those, flipping that script, if you will, right? And that really, really helped me. Everyone is completely different on what really works for you. Of course, we have things like our deep breathing and our grounding and all those different stress relief things helping regulate the nervous system, working on hormones, working on nutrition, all of that stuff. But when I learned to identify and just kind of literally say, okay, stop and imagine shutting a door, literally, I would have picture that. And then intentionally say, nope, I'm going to shift. I'm going to pivot that, whatever that thought that happened, whatever that emotion was that triggered that, and I'm going to pivot and I'm going to focus on something good, encouraging, uplifting, scripture, prayer, and I'm going to push myself in a different direction. That really, really helped so, so much. And now I hardly ever have any of that happen. I don't think I've had a panic attack in really, really long time. And if I do start to have something like that, it's very short lived and I quickly am able to kind of like manage it and stop it. But um anyway, so would you share your top few things that you feel like have really made a big difference for you?
Um, so I would, man, I don't know my top things. I would say really the biggest thing I've implemented lately is um, the morning time is when I utilize to kind of reset mentally. So I think I said this before on another one. I don't know why and I don't know how. I'm sure it has to do with frequencies. But staying away from my phone in the morning time has helped so much.
Yeah.
And just that act alone has helped me to not, I don't know what it was that when I used to just immediately go to my phone, it would like create this feeling in me like anticipation or almost like I can't explain. So anyway, so since I've implemented that, going outside and just breathing, breathing, taking the time to focus on myself, even if it's sometimes I only have 10 minutes to just go outside and do that. Sometimes I have 30 minutes to go outside in the morning before I start my day. Um, Lots of prayer time, obviously, making sure I get an adequate amount of sleep. When you don't have a lot of sleep, it causes stress, cortisol, and then it's just like this domino effect. It affects everything in you. So that's something I've definitely implemented for sure. And just one of the things that I researched too, that like over, I think it's over 40 million, which is, I think, I don't know, what did I read? I think it's like 18 or 19% of adults um, have some type of anxiety disorder, which I didn't realize that. And it's crazy because, like you said, a lot of people keep it to themselves. Most people did not know for years and years what I was struggling with. And it wasn't until recently when I started doing this with you and just talking to people a little bit more a couple of months ago about what I was enduring. People really didn't know that I was battling anxiety and that I was trying to fight it on my own. And even my husband, he doesn't know half the time that I'm battling anxiety because I just try not to talk about it. But since I have implemented those things, it has helped me a lot, I will say. But this journey it's quite a journey. But I would say that those main things have really helped me a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like that you mentioned, that morning routine. It's shocking when you look at the scientific data of how our morning routine has such a big impact on the rest of the day. Whatever you are thinking about when you're first getting up in the morning is going to affect the rest of the day. I know that sounds silly at first, but it really is true. So that's a phenomenal point to stay off of the phone because it's just an instant like bombarding of information, emails, notifications, da da da, people, questions, whatever. It's a lot all at once. So I don't think that's a great thing for our brain first thing in the morning. And our brain is in, I believe it's the alpha waves when we first wake up in the morning. So it is very spongy. It will absorb whatever we're bringing into the mind first thing in the morning. So that's a great time to read or listen to something really inspirational, encouraging, read your scripture, do your prayer, all of those kinds of things, because that's going to soak in, it's going to stick, it's going to stay there, and then it will have a profound effect on emotions, mental state, even things like our neurotransmitters, our hormones, because that's all interconnected, which is what this series is about, right? That though this might be categorized as an emotional thing, it's mental and it has biological impact. We feel the neurochemical effect every single day, whether that's
Yeah.
the increased cortisol or the more happy neurotransmitters, where
Right.
we feel that and it impacts so much.
Yeah. And I will say another thing that I've implemented, which I don't know if people talk about this too much, but yes, all those things in the morning time that I've done have helped me so much. Um, but I realized that once I started removing certain things, from my life, and I'm even talking people, people that were just sucking the energy out of me. Because, as I feel like, and I know men go through this too. I'm not saying that men don't, but as a woman, as a mother, we're always, almost always putting ourselves last. And so we're like constantly pouring into our kids, constantly pouring into our family, our friends. And then we forget about us. And so then it's like it almost just creates this stress in us that we feel a little selfish because we're focusing on ourselves. And the next thing you know, we're back to square one and we're getting like that anxious feeling and we feel like we're not worthy of thinking of ourselves for a bit. And so I had to get to the point where I had to like start removing the things that were just creating more stress in my life. And even to the point of like food, like certain foods that I had to remove. Because there's foods that impact us as well, um, when it comes to feeling stresses and things like that. So I think it's just been a little bit of everything that I've been doing. And now that I think about it, yeah, I do that too. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. And yeah, like that you mentioned the food too, because I think a lot of people, we just have our busy lives and our routines and we don't really think about it that much. Like, okay, as long as I have some protein and carbs and a vegetable every day, it's fine. Everything's fine. But we sort of forget about like, okay, well, what do the snacks look like? What are we how much, processed sugar, the processed anything really, chips, whatever. Not that you can never ever have anything, but how often is that happening? How much is that impacting your insulin level, blood sugar, hormones, and your serotonin? Our serotonin is directly impacted by all those kinds of things. The fast food and you know, I get it. The convenience is great for certain things, but it's like we really need to sit down and evaluate and be like, okay, how often is that happening? It probably is more than we realize because we're just busy and stuff. And so when you can find intentional ways of getting rid of some of those things, that can actually make a big difference. And at first it sounds kind of silly, but if you look at the chemistry of what happens with those processed things and the cycle that it puts us on, it creates slower metabolism, more irritability, more inflammation, lower serotonin, less fat burning, and we just end up on a cycle where we crave more of the junk. And it just happens so easily and quickly without even realizing. I've had a lot of clients who didn't realize that that was happening, and then when we took a look at it, it was like, oh, okay, there's some things that we can do to help with this. There's some ways to get rid of some of those things, replace, and it's a process obviously, but that is a big difference. And like you said, it's not just one thing. It is a combination of things for each person. is your is it working? Oh, it's muted.
Oh, okay. I was like, why is it not like, I'm like, I can't talk. Um, no, yeah, all of that just, for me, anxiety has been such it hits home for me so much because I think of like all the people that struggle with it and they don't, take the time to truly try to figure out how to, one, reach out to people and to say like, "Hey, I'm battling this and I don't want to battle it alone." Um, that's the biggest thing too. But anxiety impacts so many people and we don't even realize it. And we don't even realize that there's a way to remove ourselves from all that. And I don't know. I think because I have all my kids and um my youngest is 17, the oldest is 26, and I just think about them and how many times they've battled these things on their own. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. That's why us doing these podcasts and just spreading awareness and just helping people to understand that it's okay. It's okay to go through something like this and it's okay to reach out to people and it's okay to feel the things that you're feeling. I mean, that's to me, I love that I'm involved in this right now because I feel like a lot of people need to hear it, not just the younger generation, but the older generation. Oh, when you're over 40, when you're over 30, 20, people automatically assume that you should already be over that. You're considered an adult, grow up, get over it. Like that's just the mentality, right? A lot of like old school people, that's how they think. They think like, girl, you just got to get over it, move on. Trust me, I know because I used to do that to my kids. Like when, and I know this sounds terrible, but like when one of my kids would fall, I'd be like, "Get up, you're fine. Why are you crying?" Like that's that because
Yeah.
that's just how I don't know. That's just what. Not that my mom taught me that because I don't remember what she did whenever I would fall. Like, I don't know if she was like, "Oh, honey, you're okay." Like, I don't remember any of that. But what I do know is that when my kids would get hurt or something, or they were upset or they were angry, I was just like, "What's your problem? Why like, get over it. Like, stop your crying." Like, that was always like my audit. Like, I didn't want to hear anything. I was just like, "Stop." So, stuff like that does impact a person and the older they get. And yeah, so that's why like I am just beyond grateful that we're doing this right now because again, I feel like it needs to be said, it needs to be talked about for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize how common it is and that it's okay to look for support, whether that's a friend, a mentor, counseling, whatever that looks like for you. And of course, we're here if you are listening and you just want to reach out and connect. We would love to connect with you, support you with where you're at. And I like that you mentioned, with kids, because I think our generation grew up where it was just like, you just kind of you don't really we didn't really learn to identify emotions or manage them or deal with them. It was just like, just push everything to the side, just brush it under the rug, just keep moving forward, which I think there's a time and a place where that can be useful. But then, like, we also need to learn to process things better and understand emotions better. So I I'm trying to working on teaching my children that to process them in a healthy way, not to where it's like all consuming, where emotions become the only thing, or overpower everything, but to like, okay, let's process through this, let's take a breather, and when we can, and like, okay, right now we're on the way to school and we're running behind, and we can't really deal with this right now, so let's take a few deep breaths, say a prayer, and then after school we can talk about this more, okay, and then we can work through, whatever, so that we can learn to process, in a better way. Because yeah, I don't think our generation really learned that. I didn't really learn that very much.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, dang, am I that old that I just wasn't taught? But then I hear, people that are like in their 30s and like, no, yeah, my parents were like that too. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, it wasn't just me. But and the thing is it's not even I don't feel like because my mom for a very long time, she was a single parent until I was like 9 years old. And so she did the best that she could. And I will have to say my mom was an incredible mother. She taught me the side that I feel was very important for me, which was like the nurturing side of things and like what it was to be respectful and kind and all the things. But because, and man, I don't know what I can and can't say, but my mom had a life that I feel could have caused her to um, just be very silent about her feelings. So it just kind of like carried on to me. My mom was the type that she never talked about her feelings ever. And if I can think back as long as I can, because I do feel like I've kind of drowned out all the things from my past. But
Yeah.
where was I going with this? My phone sidetracked me. But
She
yeah,
never talks
so I
about her
feel
emotions or anything.
yeah, but because she didn't talk about her emotions and how she felt, like I never, even when she was going through chemo and radiation, never talked about it. She'd get up, cook, clean, do all the things, never complained ever. Like she would have to literally, I remember her holding on to like the side of the counters, like trying to walk to the stove. And I remember I was so young. And so I would wake up with her and then I was like, Mom, how do I make dad's breakfast? And so she would teach me, like she'd be right there by my side and she would show me what to do. So I was making his breakfast in the morning, not every morning, but I would try the best that I could. And but she never complained about anything. And so I think because of watching that as a child and just kind of growing up and not understanding what true feelings were, like how I felt in those moments, I do believe that it created something in me to be as silent as I am. So
Yeah.
anyways, so it's taken me a lot. Like I said, I'm in my 40s and I'm barely being vocal about all of this, and now I'm pretty somewhat 80% aware that I had issues. So,
Yeah.
anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a journey. It really is. I think each of us has a different process, and it's not instant. I don't think I've met anyone that's been like, yeah, overnight everything was just like resolved. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just anything with our well-being, mentally, physically, emotionally, even spiritually, is typically a process, because it's, learning, relearning, right? Because that's as a kid, and through our lifespan of whatever happened, that we were learning, our brain was wiring itself. And now we're like, oh, there's some things that I want to relearn and rewire a little bit. So,
Yep, yep, yep. That's
yeah.
kind of where I've been lately. Like, I just feel like, my brain is being reprogrammed. My my mental health, my physical well-being, all of it lately has been I'm in the process of reprogramming everything. And we heard about it recently about cells and like all the things and the frequencies and all that. And so since I am in a different place in my life right now, I feel like I'm kind of starting over. And I will say that although I did have that one hiccup last week Monday, I thought about this and I'm like, I used to have this happen to me every day, all day long. So the fact that
Okay.
it's just like once out of the blue,
Random. Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
That's a big
maybe.
improvement.
Yeah, that's a huge improvement for me. Because even the tiniest things would trigger the anxiety.
Uh,
Like if I felt like I offended somebody somehow, it would freak me out. Like I would just and I'd be sending messages like, "I'm so sorry if I did something to offend you." Like, I was just, like, always apologizing to people. Yes, I'm a big apologizer. Is that a word? Apologizer? Um, we'll pretend.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I feel like I've come a long way, and, you know, I just like I said, I see my kids and I'm like, I don't want them to live like this. I don't want them to see those habits that I created and then piggyback off of my habits because it's a terrible way to live, like it really is. um I just don't want them to be in that headspace. Like I don't want that for my babies. But yeah, great topic.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. And I'm sure that your kids are now seeing your journey and learning from that as well. So I'm sure that's having a positive impact, which is amazing.
Well, when they're not stuck in their rooms on their cell phones, maybe they see, I don't know.
Teenagers,
my
yes.
my kids are hardly ever home. Like my
Yeah.
they're just either working or at school. So um
Yeah.
but no, like I'm glad that and I'm sure your littles, all your babies are watching mama do her thing and help so many people. And so, yeah, I think one day at a time, one person at a time, we're going to, connect with people that truly need this and to really just feel what they're feeling and just kind of work through it. But no, I'm so glad. I'm so glad we're doing this. So excited.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we will be back again next time to continue the discussion. Have a good
Yes,
one.
ma'am. Bye.